Hey, this video contains spoilers. Rather vague spoilers, but still spoilers nonetheless. You have been warned. If you asked me before 2018 if I could see Kratos as anyone else but the self-loathing killing machine hell-bent on vengeance, I would have said no. Anger was his brand, the blades of chaos his brush, and the blood of his enemies his paint. So seeing his successful transformation from the titular God of War into the internet-coined Dad of Boy was a pleasant surprise that I did not know that I wanted. If you haven't played the old games, here's a short story. The gods took away Kratos' family, and later it was widely regarded by everyone involved as a bad move. He proceeded to dismantle the entire fabric of Greek society in his quest to essentially get even the only way he knew how, with copious amount of blood and dismemberment. In many ways, Kratos embodied what it meant to be a manly man in the early 2000s, and to a lesser extent, still today. He was strong, and he had the big dick, the biggest in all of Greece, coveted even by Aphrodite herself, who at one point calls Kratos a real man. The original trilogy indulged completely in that fantasy. It was cool for it then, less cool for it now. So when they began the production of the new God of War, many devs reportedly did not want Kratos to return. And I don't exactly blame them. The indulgence that made Kratos so popular also made him age rather poorly. Not to mention the need to be more of whatever it was previously. Bigger and better, or at the very least, louder. An understandable but problematic sentiment. Both the franchise and the developers who quickly find themselves in an Ouroboros arms race entirely against their past selves. And in the original trilogy, it was just that. With each game, Kratos had to be more manly, more angry, while killing bigger things in more spectacular ways. And by the end of the third game, Kratos as a character seemed like he had nowhere to go. He was already the angriest he could be, most powerful he ever was, and killed nearly every Greek mythic figure of import he could get his hands on. And when the raging fire burnt out finally after delivering his vengeance, he ended his own life, a fitting end to a self-destructive man. Or so we thought. To bring back Kratos from that whole experience unchanged would have been a stretch, even for Kratos, and worse, it would have proved the Greek pantheon right.
Never, never learn, never, never change. Kratos, the fool who killed his own blood. Kratos, the fool among mortals and gods. Forever, ever cursed, forever, ever doomed, consumed by vengeance to his last breath. The Spartan lights the way to dusty death.
The developers cared about God of War as a franchise, but were afraid that the inclusion of Kratos would carry with him the same problems and age indulgence. That quote, they'd just make another God of War. This, funnily enough, runs parallel to the relationship between Kratos and his son Atreus before the events of the game. The way Kratos couldn't bring himself to connect with Atreus in any meaningful way due to being so afraid of passing on his flaws and failings onto the impressionable boy. But in the same way Kratos begins to accept himself and his past through the course of the game, so do the devs during development. And in April 2018, God of War was released to critical acclaim. It came as a surprise to me. A calmer Kratos? No blades of chaos? A stinky kid? It sounded like a recipe for disaster. But after the game was released on Steam earlier this year, it was easy to see why it was so well received. The new installment refrains the game's past without the sterilization common with the rebranding of beloved characters. It was handled in a way only video games can, by making you play through the part of that rebranding yourself. From the very start of the game, the difference is there, and it's not the beard. Where the past game started with a bombastic high-octane fight against a boss many times Kratos' size, the new God of War starts you off with an axe in hand, chopping down a tree. Where's the screaming? Where's the blood? Where are the blades of chaos? And who the fuck is this kid? Kratos is different. His signature rage, hidden away just beneath the surface, and replaced with the kind of blind pragmatism stemming from having divorced oneself from emotion. The missing blades of chaos being a quite literal expression of that difference. He's in limbo, stuck somewhere between God of War and Dad of Boy. A Dad of War. The game starts there, leaving the rest of the transformation as a significant part of the unfolding narrative. Through idle dialogue and cutscenes, you begin to collect the contextual dots required to connect the old and the new, and by the end of it all, what was initially preposterous to even think about now feels like a natural extension of Kratos' arc. Witnessing that transformation, with controller in hand, makes it all the more believable. You were there with them the whole way. As an example, there's a scene between Kratos and Atreus bonding over the past. During that conversation, the boy asks Kratos if he only killed those who deserved it. After a little pause, Kratos answers yes. What a fucking lie. The Greek gods were shitty. They did shitty things, to mortals, to each other, to whoever they really had the authority to do so. But they could. They were so ingrained into the fabric of that world's reality that they were actually too big to fail. But fail they did, because of Kratos. Poseidon's death raised the oceans, Hermes released plague and pestilence, and Hera's caused all plant life to die and wither away. While Kratos might have been, at the micro scale, justified in his actions, there's no denying that they also led to the death of an entire civilization. Hundreds of thousands of families, just like the ones stolen from him, snuffed out. Arguably, he was the worst of them. The Greek gods might have been shitty, but they held the world together.
The death of Olympus means the death of us all.
Then prepare for your death, Poseidon.
That tiny pause humanizes Kratos better than any of the overly dramatic attempts in the original trilogy, where it almost feels like a betrayal of the self given the surrounding context of rage-fueled violence and quest for vengeance. However, in the new game, time has given Kratos more breathing room for what's emotionally plausible. The nuance shines even brighter by using the gratuitous context of the previous titles and looking at it from the eyes of an older and wiser Kratos. And by the end of the game, Kratos becomes a character that's not only capable of carrying a much bigger array of emotion than just rage, but feels right at home doing so. Sometimes, a rebranding of a character is done with a reverence only to the name, the recognition. The old is thrown away in hopes that the new will make up for the loss. But the beauty in the execution of God of War is that they don't just ask you to swallow the new Kratos like some sort of bitter pill, but instead they put him on your favorite spoon and make cool airplane noises while flying it straight into your mouth. The past games are all parts of Kratos still, not only lending the new God of War more narrative weight, but a certain kind of credibility that comes only with respecting the past as immutable. Thanks for watching.